Unacademy Cat Summit 2025 revolution begins here.
So for me, getting to Roorkee itself was like a big sort of unlock in life, not as much in studies, but just socially, right? I mingled with North Indian folk for the first time in my life at age 17. And so I think fascinating experience. I don't think it's a little bit of a luck of the draw if a lot of you have studied engineering and gone through entrance tests. Back then, Roorkee was not an IIT yet. It was University of Roorkee. It had its own entrance exam till 2000 for people who didn't know. Became the sixth IIT around 2000 when Uttarakhand was born. So when we wrote the separate exam, it was like a thrill that I'd gotten in through that, though I didn't get into the general IIT exam. And the North just was beckoning, as in like I wanted to culturally immerse myself. And I think, because I'm talking about MBA and education, as higher education as such, I think it's an important aspect. A lot of people now critique and say, AI aa gaya hai. Why do you need degrees? Why do you need education? A lot of these debates you read about, I think that they all forget the naivety and the stupidity of the argument that 90% of us, maybe 10% can survive without it. They can self-educate, learn everything online and then get on with life. But 90% of us, enjoy just being with people, right? Learning with like-minded people, intelligent people, being, minds that think similarly, aspire similarly for career goals. That is what these colleges and schools allow you to do, right? So for me, engineering was all around that immersion of like getting to literally वो भारत जोड़ जो हुआ मेरा लाइफ में वो engineering की वजह से हुआ, right? My first roommate was a Bihari, right? You're in the heart of UP land at that juncture. And so for a guy coming from Chennai who's born an Andhra guy, never gotten out of South India, it was a cultural immersion that you would never get anywhere else. So truly, if you want to be a global player to chodo, even if you want to be an India-centric player, today, how you ask me, how does all this play into my current career as a VC, right? So in a venture capital industry today, you're backing something, you want it to be as large as possible, not as small as possible. We're not lifestyle business investors. We want things to become bigger than India-centric sometimes, global, etc. Which means the founder, which is a lot of you aspirationally 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, you guys should have that worldview, right? You can't be, Meerut-centric or Nagpur-centric or Chennai-centric. So how do you shape that? These experiences shape you. So basically, I think that was a lot of engineering was about that for me, right? Mandal commission हुआ था, लाठी चार्ज हुआ, train में बैठ के आप, you come back without a reservation for 36 hours. These life experiences shape you, right? So that was what engineering felt. Second was, as luck would have it, I landed up in industrial engineering. And if you ask me, industrial is like the funkiest engineering, which actually somehow marries management with engineering.
Nice.
It's about operations, it's about operational efficiency, production control, elements that are make you give you a 10,000-foot view of everything around core engineering, but essentially how do you manage the efficiencies around what engineering processes and engineering. So it's operations research, machine flow shop efficiency, etc. If you think about my life as a VC, or for that matter, anybody in the world as a VC, 90% of what we invest is to make things better. It's efficiency at either a personal level, organizational level, manufacturing level, technology level, right? And managing that is what industrial teaches you, actually. So though most people think I've forgotten my engineering and I left it behind and I, became a slave to MBA education, where most engineers go and kill their engineering aspirations. All of that knowledge has fed me for 30 years, and I think has made me a better VC. Because the obsession for me that industrial engineering set for me was primarily around operational efficiency. And that is actually an element of 70, 80, 90% of the investing we do today. That's what startup investing is. You're trying to disrupt something which is run badly. That's what technology is used for, right? It's not tech for the sake of tech. It's tech to make humanity better, right? And a lot of that, while it's noble, some of it might be in life sciences, some of it might be in robotics. But fundamentally, if you look at Zepto, Shepto, Zomato, etc. It's all operational efficiency. There's nothing
Right.
more than that, right? And so you might call it like cool new businesses, but effectively, if you look at the core of it, if you don't run ops well and you don't execute ops well, you're going to run crap businesses. You can make losses and sustain it for some time, but eventually your luck will run out. You have to run a business so efficiently that you can actually make money off those very thin margins that India offers. So that was engineering. So why do you get into MBA? See, I think a lot of you are probably freshers as well. Freshers meaning freshers out of college. And let's admit it, India getting great jobs is a narrow funnel. And back then, again, we're talking 30 years back. If you
Yeah.
got out of engineering, you went into either IT services or you went into manufacturing shop floors. And otherwise, however smart you were, it's not like Unilever would take you into a marketing role or a management role, etc., or an investment bank would hire you because you didn't have knowledge of how like basic accounting works, basic finance works. So MBA used to be and continues to be for most people a stepping stone into getting into certain industries that your core undergraduate education does not give you, right? And so a lot of us used to flock to the CAT and write the CAT because that and because of this balance of the smartest undergrads wanting to do the CAT, it's very difficult to tell the smartest, like the country as a whole cannot tell the smartest undergrads that you can't get into CAT without work experience.
Right.
Rather get into the IIMs or the top management institutions. The US, now, because I'm comparing and contrasting what my Wharton experience was like, the US says, I don't care how smart you are. You might be the most brilliant person out of MIT or Harvard. If you don't work for 3 to 4 years, you don't even qualify for admissions.
Oh.
So there is almost sub 5% of people in an American business school class have less than 3 years of experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you cannot get into a top business school in the US without a minimum of 3 years. If you write it at 2 years, they'll say you don't have enough experience, come back in a year, right? And you might get a deferred admission sometimes, but they will not give you, very rare. You have to be exceptional CVs if you want to make it below 3 years of experience. So it's night and day because here you go in and you essentially approach the MBA as an advancement of what you did in undergrad.
It makes sense.
So it's very textbook heavy, classroom heavy. You actually, of course, there's case studies, there is group discussions. So there's different elements of your personality that you were never exposed to in engineering, where you're sitting in the room and just doing analytics and problems and nobody asks you anything. Right? No one asks you to class participate. Here it's more about a lively sort of discussion and it's an exposition of your personality that you've never actually shown before. So it works for people who are inclined in that fashion. However, it's still very book knowledge because you've never worked a day in your life. 50% of the classes, even today at the best IIMs, have zero experience.
Yeah.
Even today, 30 years later.
Yeah.
Whereas the American system has forced everybody to work before coming to business. Right? And so in the Indian system, you go through that experience. And of course, there is case studies, there is internships, there's summer internships. All of this helps you get a flavor of what life is going to look like. But it's not the same because you've not actually worked anywhere. The other 50%, even in our class back then, a lot of them would be coming from telco, Tisco. They would be on shop floors or they would be in IT services. But a year or two, and they would have been predominantly engineers, geeks sitting in a corner and doing that work. We didn't get that density or richness or variety and diversity of experience in the classroom.
Right,
so what happens is there's a homogeneity in how the education system works than in the Indian CAT system. So I think the reason I'm going into that is if you people don't get in through the CAT right after education, don't feel disheartened because there is the work experience that you can gain in 2-3 years and then having a reshot at whether it is to get into the IIMs or get into ISB or get into a global education or get into INSEAD is not a bad thing. This is like a warm-up in that sense. You're getting a sense for gauging when you're giving the CAT, you're gauging your analytical abilities, seeing how good you are. Naturally, are you inclined to that? Of course, once you get out of the school system, the college system, it's tougher to go and prep for an exam. But on the flip side, if you look at the American system, almost everybody writes the GMAT while doing a 9-to-5 job.
Right.
They don't write it. They don't write it in college, magga marke, doing practice tests on weekends, and then and use the GMAT score 4 years later, right? हम काम करते करते GMAT किया हमने. बॉम्बे में लोकल ट्रेन पकड़ के रात को जाके प्रैक्टिस करके फिर GMAT दे के फिर 700 कुछ लेके आए, right? So my point is that if an American guy or a American applicant can do that, so can you if a cat. Right? Of course, it's more competitive. There's a joke, right, that the smartest you are in your life is at about 18 when you enter undergrad. After that, you get dumbed down by the system, right? So the further you grow older, your sharpness goes, is what they say, from especially test taking skills and abilities, etc. While I get that, I think you can gauge yourself, but you don't have to be absolutely crushed and disappointed if you don't get into the cat right up front, right? If you think about, only 50% of the class gets in every IIM is actually without work experience.
Right.
So the other 50% has worked hard while working to do the CAT, get a good, and every IAS guy in the country is doing the same.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's right. They're hard at work. They're doing masters. They're doing something else, and then they're actually applying and studying for the IAS. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should see this as the end all and be all. And for me, the US experience turned out to be very different because, in the US, the average, I was 26 and I was one of the youngest in the class.
Wow.
Yeah. Finished IIT Roorkee, finished IIM Bangalore, worked for 3 years in Bombay in American Express. And then towards the third year is when I applied. And by the time I reached, and I got everything done on time, didn't waste a single year, and I was still 26.
Wow. Nice, sir. Nice. But you're still the youngest.
Yes, so one of the youngest, right? I would be top, like a bottom 15 percentile in terms of age, right? Nice. So what does that mean, though? The person who comes with every year extra is even more determined to maximize the value of that expensive MBA.
Correct.
So he or she approaches the class as if kaam ke liye aa raha hai.
Nice. Yes.
It's like very businessy. When we used to have group meetings there, it was not like chai, sutta, pakoda, samosa, 12 baje raat ko canteen mein. That is the vibe in IIM.
MBA college, yeah.
वहाँ पे ना 4 बजे आते हैं, बोलते हैं let's sit for an hour. 5 बजे like a meeting in the workspace. Time खत्म हो गया, अब सब जा रहे हैं. One's going to the gym, one's going to their kid, one's going to their girlfriend, one's going to their next meeting, right? So it's very professional, right? The approach is very professional because it's treated as if it is a break in your work life because you've given up your fat salary, which is usually for a Western Hemisphere person between $60,000-$75,000 to $150,000.
Yeah.
Right? You've given that up to come and spend $100,000 in an MBA program.
Correct.
So this, I feel, if you ask me, having done both, your approach to the MBA should be a nice blend of both. Because India is not the US. You have a different type of camaraderie. It's not a global institution, so you have cultural differences between the 30 states, but it's not like we are dealing with Americans and Europeans and Latin Americans like we were in the US. So there's a different vibe. So you should do the canteen, you should do the 3 a.m. Catch-ups and debates and talk about cricket and talk about politics and all of that, because that's what college is about. But on the flip side, you should approach it with a little bit more of that professionalism, try to get the most out of work experiences, lectures, guest lecturers, guest speakers, because this is a window to getting exposed to life, right? And it's not about the classroom mein maine teer maar diya, 95% leke aaya. So what? How is that going to help you when you enter month 3 of your job, right? And so as much as I studied all of that derivative stuff, and it helped me because I got a job in financial derivatives, and I was a finance and marketing major. It all helps you in the long term, but in the short term, you feel like you haven't gained much if you simply are a classroom geek trying to ace grades and not take in the entire MBA atmosphere.
Right.
So what में ना इतना बड़ा class होता था कि that basically there used to be these clubs, और एक नहीं, दो नहीं, 10 नहीं, 50-60 क्लब होते थे. प्राइवेट इक्विटी VC का क्लब होता था, रियल एस्टेट का क्लब होता था, वाइन टेस्टिंग का क्लब होता था, विस्की टेस्टिंग का क्लब होता था.
So look at the plethora. Look at the breadth of it.
And then every nationality or region used to have it. So the Latin American ones used to have, the Indian ones used to have, the European ones used to have, because basically it's about communities.
Right.
It's basically about understanding. You come there for networks, right? And if you don't take advantage of that and you treat it like your engineering or your BCom or whatever, a lot of BCom students are like not hostile folks at all in this country. They go home. So आपका exposure ही अलग है. यहाँ पे like you're getting the ability to be 365 days in the year with a sub community in India, which is also very different from the West, where you actually all stay in private quarters. There's no campus housing for anyone.
Right, sir.
Across the US. So
Right.
I think these were the big differences. I know I've spent a lot of time, but I think it was given my unique set of experiences, as you highlighted, Amit, I thought it would be useful for the students to get a
No, but sir, this is really enriching, and specifically, I love the fact that you also touched upon this thing, which very few people say, that do the MBA for the experience of it, where you meet people who are very diverse. It's the networking. It's kind of it exposes you to so many different things, and makes you really think. And sir, you are right, because in the Indian ecosystem there is this kind of thing where freshers do MBA. A lot of freshers get into MBA. They're kind of not sure what to do. So maybe it also acts as a bridge. Of course, our MBA colleges are trying to have the industry interface and to make them all hands-on and kind of as corporate driven as possible. So it's obviously campus to corporate that they kind of stress upon. But US MBA with the WorkX, of course, should help a lot.
Yes.
So there's already a question for you in the chat. I would like to take it up, please, because we're
sure.
all dying to know that, sir, you're a founder VC, ठीक है? You work in such a hot sector right now. So if you had to kind of look while selecting, ठीक है? So what traits or what analytical skills would you kind of look for in consultants or bankers, who work with you for, with your portfolio companies regarding growth, fundraising? So talk about some skills and, kind of qualities that you look for.
Yeah, see, venture is a cottage industry in the sense that पूरा देश में मिला के अभी 1000 ventures VC लोग हैं, right? It's not like banking or consulting where the country can absorb few more thousands, right? So it's a very small industry. It's very specialized, and there is no template around finding like a great gig in venture, if you ask me. What's happening with the youngsters, because it's gotten very competitive and it's it's very sexy from the outside, but it's a very long-term business, right? It's not an easy business to know that you're really good at. In fact, most folks who have joined us and who have left are essentially folks who are who discover for themselves that they're not good at what we do, which is early stage venture capital, right? So, so basically, our view on hiring has been that essentially go and try and get a flavor, and I can only speak for myself. And I know most of you assume that it's one standardized bucket, but venture is actually early stage venture, growth venture, then private equity. Very, very different DNA, right? Because in private equity, you're looking at established businesses and actually companies that can almost go public in 3 to 4 years, which means the lens is actually as if you were looking at a public company. In growth venture, they want all the venture-like risks stripped out, meaning they don't want things like product market fit and abhi tak decide hi kar rahe kaun sa market karna hai, whether the customer is willing to pay or not. They don't want any of those risks. So even there, the experience of having worked in industry, sometimes as a consultant, as a McKinsey consultant, or as an operator in let's say one of India's best unicorns, etc., goes a very long way, because you have the growth DNA in you, meaning you've actually seen scale and you've advised on scale and you've had strategic inputs on scale. Now, early stage a lot of that doesn't matter. You have to have an intuition. So I feel it's a high curiosity job, because you got to be as curious as your founders every day in a different field. So आज semiconductor pitch होगा, कल fintech pitch होगा, परसों edtech pitch होगा, तरसों robotics pitch होगा, and उसके बाद AI software pitch होगा. And each one of your partners will bring you a different deal. And your mind is supposed to be able to adjust and adapt and know how to calibrate all of this risk. So it's not as much a finance job as it is a understanding of technology, right? Understanding of business models. So essentially, how do you get exposure to something like that? You get exposure to something like that either by getting a humble start as an analyst or an associate. So if you're a really smart person, whatever you did, whether you did banking, consulting, etc., you have a shot at coming at the top of the funnel into the VC thing. But there, typically, the paths are एक दो साल, not एक, but 2-3 साल के बाद, you are asked to go leave the system, because it's very difficult to commit for 20-30 years and know that you want to be a VC just because you worked for 2 years.
Right.
So usually we encourage analysts to leave. Like they go, some of them go in fact, I met a girl 2 days back who came for general gyan and advice because I had done a foreign MBA and she had actually was going to Harvard. She was a analyst at another VC firm, at a top VC firm. She got into Harvard. And that's exactly what people do. They go and widen and broaden their scope if they come in as analysts. They want to go and work, go do an MBA, widen their skills because they've not got formal skills on that front. They were, in her case, she was probably from an IIT or something like that. But they want to go in, or maybe SRCC or something. So she had never worked other than in this analyst role, and now she wants to go and understand the formalities of finance and the global market, etc. And so she's going overseas. So that's one path. But eventually, when you get these people back as what are called principals or AVPs, they're usually folks who have worked in the venture industry somewhere else, or they've worked in a startup and seen the growth alongside the founders of that startup. So somebody could have worked with, let's say, the Razorpay founders or the PhonePe founders as their founder office resource, or as a product manager, or as a strategic, a strategy group. So we want folks who are exposed to breadth as opposed to being very narrow in their exposure. So yes, an MBA helps, but not without having suitable experience in seeing that breadth. And I think for me, if you look at my life, actually, this is why I don't judge people who Gen Zs or the millennials who actually have also not worked for more than 3, 4, 5 years in any single place, because my max work experience in any single place before I started Bloom was only 3.5 years. Right? I had 3 such stints, which added up to about 10 years, and then everything else didn't work out. So they were all like 1-year experiments, right? So I had 6 gigs in like 15 years, but nothing more than 3.5 years, right? And so over 13 years or so. And then I started Bloom. And if you think about, and this is general philosophical advice, that the way, especially for venture also, what I take away is that each one of those experiences taught me something about myself, and taught me something about an industry, and taught me something about colleagues in that place. And it just sharpens your mind better on how to be a better sort of manager, colleague, business analyst, strategist in different segments. And I worked across sectors, worked across geographies, right? US and India. So when you add all that up, these are very powerful tools for being a generalist VC, which is what I am, right?
Lovely, sir.
And so if you today, what's happened is 15 years later from when we started, that's when we started, 2010, mid 2010, the world's gotten more specialized. So today you can love deep tech, you can love electric vehicles, you can love climate change, you can love a sectoral thing, you can go very deep in that sector. But you need to also build skills around understanding what it means to be on my chair. You can't simply be on the founder's chair and then say, I'll be a great VC, right? You have to understand your responsibilities towards your investors. It's not my money, it's somebody else's money that I manage. And you have to understand the financial aspects of it. So if somebody comes purely from industry, it's not that they can't be educated, but it's tougher for them to understand all of these elements and still commit to a 20-year journey. Venture also, by the way, is, if you thought startup journeys and founder journeys are long, venture journey, you can just double it and think that that's how long it will take for you to know that you're really great at it. And nobody wants to do a startup or a venture capital job if you don't think you want to be there for a decade or 2 and be great at it, right? Everything else feels like it's just a waste of time, because you won't see the rewards, you won't see the value of, like, you can't see a company that I cut a check into takes 8-10 years to bloom, so to speak, right? Yeah, and so if I'm checking out in 3 years, if somebody joined me on that journey, somebody wanted to be my understudy and join me, you get out in 3 years, yeah, you can go and tell your friends 10 years later, oh, मैं उस समय Bloom में था.
so,
But like, nobody's going to give you credit for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the only reason to do ventures, the founder looks at you and says, this guy helped me through the journey.
Yeah.
He bet on me before anybody could, and he helped me through the journey, which means you're there for like at least the 10 years of their journey. And if you're doing that 3-4 cycles, every 3 years the new portfolio gets built. So if you do it for 3 cycles, that's 10 years of portfolio building. By the time the last cycle matures, it's the 20th year. It's a very long-term business. So even though I'm in my 15th year right now, I feel like very incomplete. Because my best companies have still not played out, including Unacademy. Still going through its motions, right?
Yeah.
It's been 9 years for us in Unacademy. Right? Something like a Dunzo went all the way up and crashed and burned.
Yeah.
So you feel the pain of like having built that much value and going to zero, right? And then you see slow growth stories which are delightful because they, against all odds, against anybody giving them money, they're thriving and surviving, right? So we have Purple, which was people had written off 3 times over, but they're the closest to profitable unicorn that we have in our portfolio, and founders just kept at it for a year. So you have to enjoy that aspect more than whether you're a consultant or whether you're a banker.
But sir, this is so useful and practical for all of us. You managed to point out all the technicalities and all the skills, but also
I'm just walking around to bring my charger, but yeah, I've done it.
That's also needed, I guess.
Yeah.
But also the fact that you highlighted that you need patience and you need to stick on and you need to stay on, which is also so crucial. Which I think a lot of our kind of young learners watching are like, "Hare, ये तो सोचा ही नहीं था," because 2-3 years is quite a good gig. Sir, I would like to call upon a few of our excited learners on stage as well,
Sure.
because I can see a lot of questions. And rather than me only asking, I would love for them to speak to you directly with your permission.
Sure.
Shivraj, Samantha. Shivraj, can we have you on stage, please? Shivraj, can we have you on stage? One second, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shivraj, can you join us on stage, please?
Hey Shivraj, we have sent you one request on your box. You can just check and accept.
Acha. So, acha, Shivraj ko request. There he is.
Shivraj is here.
Hi, Shivraj. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, Shivraj, you are also audible. Your questions were very interesting, but now not to get overly technical, Shivraj, because then the session might go in a little different direction. Could you ask one question to sir that you are wanting to ask, please?
Yes, sir. So my question is like, you guys may be recruiting from one of the IIMs or any MBA grads. So what are you looking in a candidate rather than his degree, rather than which college he is passing out, like in IIT, IIM? What is the skills you are looking for in a candidate for recruiting?
Yeah, so we're not that judgmental on. Of course, it helps that you're from a good college. Of course, I'll give an analogy and then specifically answer it. Right? If you go to go ahead.
Yeah, I want to interrupt. Like I have some studies, I'm going through some articles that saying that 10% to 20% of MBA grads are only employable in India. So what are they lacking? Like what do we need to do to improve our skill set rather than academics?
No, that's what I said. I think the problem with the Indian approach to it is that historically we have actually gotten too many sort of folks into these programs with zero experience. Okay, and I don't think getting a job with undergrad is any easier either. So what you said is true of an undergrad institution also theoretically. But if you believe that the MBA is going to be an expensive experiment which doesn't pay you or which doesn't get you a job, theoretically that's true of your undergrad as well. If you believe that your undergrad is giving you a good shot at a job, then take that. Is my counter, right? If you don't, because what is happening is the top end of the market will the IIMs have increased to 20 today, right? And there are probably 10 or 15 elite institutions outside of that. So those 35 institutions or 40 institutions are anyway churning out on average 300, 400 people. So there's probably, 15, 20,000 students that are getting in through the MBA route every year. And a lot of folks find that a lot of these people have to be trained on the job, right? You get into a management training role, not into somebody who's effective on day one, because you've never worked in your life before, right? Whereas if you go to an ISB today, I think the rates are much better, the hiring is much better, because almost everybody in ISB has worked. They don't take people without work experience. It's closer to the American system because they started late, right? So they didn't have any. They could start with a different criteria that we prefer working professionals. And I think there is an over-indexing on that. So if you are able to get like a fantastic gig after undergrad, or even like it doesn't have, fantastic is a relative word. I'm saying if you get like a good manufacturing shop, let's say you graduate around close to say Chennai or Bangalore, and Ashok Leyland gives you like a engineering, or a workshop job, or even if you get out of BCom, they give you like a finance and accounting job. There's nothing wrong with that, is my view, right? I feel that's my learning, and from doing a couple of these MBAs, that you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about the industry. In fact, funnily enough, in the US, a lot of folks take the undergrad job and they come to the MBA because they don't like their life from the undergrad job. They want to switch careers.
Correct.
Right. And they use the MBA as a transit point to shift from banking to consulting, or consulting to banking, or marketing to consulting, or consulting to operations, or whatever it may be. And also end up spending time researching what kind of jobs there are, what kind of industries they want to work in, rather than trying to rush out of point A to point B to point C, and then finding that they're miserable, or they're not getting the jobs they like right after graduation. So I feel like if you force yourself into an MBA education outside of a top tier college too early without having worked, then that's what leads to disappointments and underemployment, if you ask me, right? If you've actually given it more thought and you're not in a rush, and you figure that it's okay to get there by 25, 26, as opposed to 22, 23, then I think more people will be content with the decisions they make and the jobs they get after that. That's my humble take, right? Rather than put yourself under artificial pressure. The question you asked is, of course, education degree matters, but the analogy is closer to what we see in the US, right? There are people who get 630 on a GMAT. There are people who get 780 on a GMAT. Both get in. How do they get in? Because they actually, one has worked for 5 years and one has worked for 3. One has worked, in the Wharton class is so democratic that you'll have these really left field candidates. You'll even get, in our class, we had 2 naval pilots.
Wow.
Right. So who had flown F-16s back then, right? So I'm saying the uniqueness of your application is what determines your admission, especially in the US colleges. Here, we are more obsessed around just the smaller score plus group discussion plus interview, very thick, tight format, because they're not able to give value and credit for the recommendation letters, for the job experience, because you don't have a basis to get those high quality, elements to your resume. But when you come for a job at a VC firm, that's what I'm looking for. What is the quality of experience, and where did you start off at, high school, undergrad, and how did you get through that journey to get to where you are, right? And so it doesn't matter that you're from Jadavpur or from Anna University or from IIT or from wherever, but like, what did you do to, improve yourself against the odds is what I'm looking for, because that's essentially the kind of people you're backing. If it's so easy to do entrepreneurship and build billion-dollar companies, you would have thousands of them. It's not easy, right? And you're supposed to back such people. So how would you know that pain if you haven't actually gone through it, right? So that's what I'm over-indexing on. Like, the quality of your journey as opposed to simply a point in time or a single degree, if you ask me.
Lovely, sir. I think that's also very well put. So Shivraj and everybody else, the message here is very clear that profile building, you can start thinking at the undergrad level itself, you can grad, and then of course postgrad. The problem with us is that by the time we come to know, and these kind of news that are going around, they're only 10% are employable. So that's what sir is saying. Start working backwards, and we always emphasize on holistic profile building. Get some internships in, get some certifications, get some industry corporate experience, and this should happen ideally when you're at the undergrad level and of course at the graduate level. Shivraj, I hope that answered your question. Thank you so much, Shivraj. Can we now please move on to Dhruv? Dhruv, would you have a question? And Dhruv, can you also maybe turn on your
Hello.
camera? Dhruv, if you can turn on your camera, it'll be really nice if you can.
Yeah, yes. Sir, it's not possible for me to turn on camera. Can I?
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
So first of all, good afternoon, sir, and Amit sir, you also.
Good
How are
afternoon.
you? Like, sir, I really wanted to ask you, as an investor perspective, what all parameters do you look in a candidate or you look in a founder, at an early stage founder? What do you expect from him to show you in his business?
Yeah, no, this is a standard question. I've probably answered it hundreds of times, but I'll answer it for the benefit of the crowd here. See, everyone will tell you the same 2-3 things, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
No high quality VC will have a dramatically different answer, because the reality of building startups is these are super long-term, difficult journeys, right? So we try to dig deep into why is the founder even thinking of running a business of this nature. The problem with 90% of entrepreneurship anywhere in the world is that it is done for the founder's short-term sustenance, right? It's either a substitute for a job, or you find a problem that has bothered you, or you want to make money. That's why I said it's a substitution for a job, right? You're not happy as working as a restaurant manager. You say, "मैं खुद restaurant बना लेता हूं," right? So, but are you thinking about it from your satisfaction, or are you thinking about it from the customer satisfaction? Meaning, is the problem obsession deep enough? Right? It can't be कि मुझे और पैसे बनाने हैं, मुझे. That's fine. Of course, that is the end state of business, and that's what I want to make, and that's what you want to make. But it doesn't sustain you, in the sense that it doesn't. You can't make bold bets on that front. You can't think really long term, and you can't sustain the shocks of entrepreneurship. If you look at Dipinder Goyal's journey at Zomato, he'll say 3 times in his life he doesn't know where the next month's salary is going to come from. So that is not a easy problem to solve if you're not deeply married to, yaar, maine itne, with this much passion, I've built a problem worth solving in Zomato. And so I will not let it die easily. That's what sustains you, right? Otherwise, there are enough businesses going up in smoke, right? 9 out of 10 restaurants don't even survive the 4th year, 3rd year, because they're boutique lifestyle businesses. So you'll say,
Yes.
"ठीक है यार, एक restaurant बंद हो गया, क्या फर्क पड़ता है?" Here, no, you have thousands of employees. You have like thousands of customers, millions of customers. You'll never want to give up on all of that. फिर भी हो जाता है. Right? That's why I said Dunzo went to like 0. Right? So I'm just saying, so what sustains you is your passion for solving the problem. So we dig very deep into क्यों कर रहे हो तुम ये? That's one. Second is, if they can't imagine themselves to be phenomenal vision sellers and recruiters, they can't build a large company. No chance, right? So analytical nahi hai. It's not like how cute your PowerPoint deck looks like, right? Your PowerPoint deck is not what you use to hire somebody. Your PowerPoint deck is not what you use to win a business relationship. Your PowerPoint deck is not winning a customer. Might win an investor, but like, who cares about the investor alone? You're not going to build a great business just because you convinced me of giving you $1 or $2 or $3 million. So that vision sell has to be consistent across selling to me, to the customer, to the employee, to the CXO they're going to hire 5 years from now, right? So it's not easy. These are not easy. And then fundamentally, you can't get fearful or afraid of how much scale is required for a VC to be interested in your business. Please don't confuse entrepreneurship with VC-backed entrepreneurship. They're 2 different things. Okay. Entrepreneurship exists. I respect it. The Thela wala is also an entrepreneur. जो अपना ऑटो चलाता है वो भी entrepreneur है. They hard work. They work 14 hours a day. You have to respect them for that. Can they be VC funded? They can't be VC funded. Because VC funded means I want ridiculous scale at ridiculous speed. which means everything that I said in the last 5 minutes has to apply to my evaluation framework. अगर मुझे लगता है कि ये ridiculous scale, ridiculous speed capability नहीं है, मैं ना बोल देता हूँ. That's okay. You shouldn't create false expectations on both sides that you can build a great startup just because you have one idea and a pitch. Idea is worthless, boss. Ideas
But
are
sir,
diamond
that
dust.
is again very well put, where you've emphasized on both of them, analytical skills and recruiting skills, in the sense of, so you have to be a taskmaster and very good at what you do, but even people skills, management skills, which of course, and of course, again, we teaches.
Usually, to summarize that, Amit, to summarize that, I'll basically tell you there are two things that we hear a lot. Right? One is if you test your idea, and if 7 out of 10 people, 8 out of 10 people say, "Kya badhiya idea hai," it's usually bakwas idea. It's not worth backing, right? Because if art people can already think that it's a good idea, that means 800 outside also can think.
Wow.
So that means it's a very simple copycatable idea.
Oh.
Right? So if a common person can anticipate it, that means there's no moat. And this is a business where if you do not have an insight or a moat which is long-term sustainable, you're building into a rat race, which I'm not interested in.
Yeah, sir. So on this, like, apart from AI, like, which industry are promoting the most? Like, what do you think about any industry which blooms now?
यार हम सब कुछ करते हैं यार. We are a general purpose VC. Our portfolio is on our web page, so we write a lot. So आप देख लो, but essentially we look at life in 4 to 5 buckets. One is offline consumer, which is retail, brands, etc. We think if India is going to grow into a $10 trillion economy, वो कहीं नहीं गया, वो तो बढ़ना ही है. Because AI सब ठीक है, but दाल चावल रोटी घर मकान मोबाइल ये सब आपको चाहिए ही चाहिए. So consumption economy is not going anywhere. आप AI लेके थोड़ी ये सब कर सकते हो, खिलाएगा थोड़ी आपको. So basically there's roti kapda makan extensions with education, financial services, healthcare. So we see that as a continuum. If that is offline, we have one approach to it. If that's digital, we have another approach to it. Okay, so that's India consumption, SMB, consumer. Then fintech, because we feel like अगर $10 trillion economy बनना है तो पैसे की through ही बनेगा. पैसे की जरिए जो भी बनता है वो पैसा itself is an industry. That is the nature of capitalism, right? Then we look at why be restricted by Indian GDP, Indian consumers, Indian borders. We should sell to the world. If you have really cool engineers and who can build the best technology in the world, whether it's AI and software in one bucket or deep tech, which is robotics, space, climate change, all of these is another bucket. So ho gaya, mera 5 bucket ho gaya. We allocate about 20% mota of the 100% of a 3-year fund into all these buckets.
So that is so well and so nicely explained to us all. Dhruv, sir ने 3 sentences में पूरा business model समझा दिया. And I think that is such a
fundraise कर रहा हूँ, रोज pitch करता हूँ भाई.
That is such a good answer.
नींद में उठाओ, ठंडा पानी डालो, यही है.
Yeah. You're the king of being concise, sir.
Yeah. That answer comes from your daily analytical thinking, na, about different and
सर 14-15 साल के बाद डेली कुछ नहीं, अब imbibed है, खून में ही है. Like, रोज सोचते हैं, रोज देखते हैं. We see the pipeline, so we are very well prepared. Like they say in the venture world, there's a concept called prepared mind. So this is all prepared mind. If you're not prepared, you don't know what you're going to invest in.
Right.
So we have
Dhruv,
to be
thank you
prepared.
so much. Dhruv, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Nice talking to you.
Thanks, Dhruv. Take care. Sir, because of paucity of time, I think we have just one question more that we'll take, because
Sure.
guys, we need to let go of Mr. Reddy as well. Sir, we would love to keep you for the whole day, but we know we can't. So, Vasundhara, could you please ask your question? Maybe turn on your camera if you can, or please ask your question. Vasundhara,
You have to be
can
off
ask your
mute.
question?
Vasundhara, you're on mute.
Hi, Vasundhara. You're still on mute. We can see you though. No, still on mute.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Now
yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
So, sir, my question is that this year I'm giving my CAT exam and I'm currently in last year of my graduation. And I want to ask, like, what other skills should I develop along with preparing for my exam?
I think general life skills, Vasundhara, are never going to go to waste, right? So, if you in India, we don't give enough respect to this whole idea of, part-time jobs, internships. अब US जाओ, हमारे फ्रेंड, मेरे कैलिबर के फ्रेंड्स के बच्चे म्यूजियम में इंटर्नशिप करते हैं, लाइब्रेरी में इंटर्नशिप करते हैं, मैकडोनल्ड्स में काम करते हैं,
retail stores, sir.
11th 12th summers में they go and do, like, my investor, right, one of the most senior guys at one of the best consulting firms in the world, he's on the board of it.
Wow.
Uska bachcha was in a restaurant waiting tables because
Wow.
he says if he does not understand how to deal with that particular customer, like with respect, he has to understand that two things he wanted to make him understand. The rich guy comes in, he could have been that customer. Like, how do you deal with him when you're the service delivery person? And the person who's cooking and going out for a smoke in his break behind the kitchen door, the fact that that person is actually serving you when you're in the restaurant, right? How do their lives intertwine with yours? And how do you understand personas and personalities? So these kind of skills, right? This life skills. हमारे system में सब कुछ classist or casteist होता है, right? I'll put it bluntly. We are 2,000 years of like bad behavior. So, we carry that damn baggage and we think it's beneath us to go do these jobs, beneath us to go and like learn about like, different classes of people. ये सब करिए ना, like, so there's no shortage of those kind of gigs. Nobody wants to do it. मेरा एक फाउंडर अभी, उसको समझना था कि वो कुछ और कर रहा था, उसको हाइपरलोकल कॉमर्स में कुछ करना है. कल माय पार्टनर पोस्टेड पिक्चर्स ऑफ हिम, वो डिलीवरी ड्राइवर बन के घूम रहा है. Kabir of Dunzo for the first year used to be the delivery guy himself along with founders. He had 4,000 WhatsApp groups. Right? That's what it takes to be a great founder, a great executive. So ये cookie cutter नहीं है कि classroom करो, CAT की पढ़ाई करो, वहाँ पहुँच जाओ, exam में crack करो. There is 100 other things that you want to learn if you can. Right? For me, those train journeys to Delhi were life shaping.
Yeah.
Right? 90% of the people nowadays don't even do it. Right, yeah. Because they have the luxury of somehow their parents affording a flight today. Because by the way, उन दिनों में 1991, 92 Air India का flight Delhi Chennai 10,000 रुपए का, उस price point 10,000 रुपए. आज आप बजट पे खरीदो तो 4,000 5,000 में चेन्नई पहुंच सकते हो दिल्ली में 35 years later.
Wow.
Okay, so you have to subject yourself to like, conditionalities. I'm not saying go and live in poverty. I'm just saying you have to go and figure out more about yourself. I think that is to me the key skill. Cat chalta rahega, that's all fine. That's analytical skills, that's skills of the mind. But how you evolve beyond a CAT exam is what I would want everyone here that's what I've hoped I've delivered in this like 45 minutes.
So Vasundhara, I hope that was clear, that sir emphasized on life skills. Get hands-on, get practical, and do something. Uske through you'll find out your likes also, your inclination also, in terms of whether you want to do retail, you want to do banking, you want to do customer service, you want to do operations or something like that. I hope that makes sense, Vasundhara.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Vasundhara. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, Amit, thanks for great moderation, great summarization.
So we have one more very enthusiastic person on stage.
Chalo.
If it's okay, that was absolutely the last, and we'll keep it very, very short, sir. Sam, ka question is already, and this is very interesting, sir, because Sam, please go ahead and ask your question, Sam, and turn on your camera if you can.
Sir, actually, currently I'm in my I do in college. That's why. Sorry.
No problem.
Good afternoon, sir. First of all, nice to have you. Sir, actually, I have one question. Like initial stage, we have some ideas regarding like some evolving ideas I have. So if we have to make it like in a product, like initially we can't invest much to make it work, like make it workable, or we can start with a product. So like initially we can pitch our idea only to like investors, so they can invest like in our like idea only, irrespective of product is not ready yet.
90% of the people in institutional venture will not touch the idea, right? Unless you've come with some credibility around why you are the best person for that idea. अगर आप वही ये जो कह रहे हो, if you were already that with a 5 years of Flipkart experience, आपको मिल जाता पैसा.
Okay.
Because they know that आप कर चुके हो. You've done this journey. It doesn't matter whether the product is ready or not.
Okay.
आप कुछ भी नहीं किए हो life में. You've not built a product. You've not actually know how to hire. You don't know how to execute.
Yes.
These are unknowns. I have no idea whether you're good at it or not. So institution will not take that bet, which is why angel investors exist, friends and family exist. So there's friends, family, and fools. Basically, people who are actually know you.
Okay.
Only people who know you will give you money. I don't know you, so I will not give you money, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have delivered all of that. If you have a track record which shows that you have a high probability of achieving that, then you will get a micro VC, somebody who can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crores. Now we have grown up a little. We are $250+ million funds now, which we raise every 3 years. My starting check is 2-3 million. 15-20 crore बहुत पैसा होता है भाई. And you say नहीं मुझे एक ही चाहिए. मैं नहीं हूँ वो. मेरे ब्लूम 10 साल पहले जितना बड़ा ब्लूम था, 400 करोड़ का फंड, अभी 100 से 500 करोड़ के फंड 150 हो गए हैं कंट्री. अब उनसे बात करें, not with me. I don't have the bandwidth to evaluate everything, right? We get 4,000 pitches in a year and we do 10.
Okay.
So I have enough of a filtering system to act on. So Sam, tough luck. I don't have the bandwidth to engage with you, right? You build everything and come back to me. I'll pay the price. No? I'll pay 100 crore valuation for you and give you 15 crores. But I will not come in at the early stage. So there is new guys who skip niche. There is friends, family, and angels. But it's very risky. Think about it. In India, there's no culture of failure and angel investing, right? So basically, if you lose your friend's money, also वो याद रखेगा. US में ना बोलेंगे अरे ये तो होना ही था. 9 out of 10 will fail. So यहाँ पे वो बोलने के लिए है, but वो याद रखता है कि अब खाता है उनके दिमाग में. So it's not as prevalent. So you have to go to people in technology who understand this. That's why all of today's India's biggest angel investors, as opposed to 15 years ago, are all from tech.
Yeah.
Right. It'll be 100 people, 1,000 people in Flipkart who are angel investors, 100 people in Ola who are angel investors, because they know the risks. So they know कि 10 लाख दिया जा सकता है. But if you don't have a network into any of those, I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying high school kids cannot get funded, but it's 1 in 1,000. आप ये newspaper पढ़ के don't get disillusion कि होता रहता है, नहीं होता रहता है. 1 in 1,000, 1 in 100 के stories paper में आते हैं.
Yes.
99 of the 100 you don't hear of how they failed in either raising money or have raised money and failed.
So Sam, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
but
thank you, sir.
And sir, thank you so much for letting us know the funnel and the pipeline of investing, because you're right. I mean, people just assume that,
one thing we'll take pride in is Bloom. I've done at least 10 podcasts over the last 10 years. We write a lot. There's a lot to surface. We're almost there. We've tried some experiments, but in a year or so, you might have like a bot equivalent. You might have a Karthik bot you can talk to rather than me. Right? You can ask it whatever you want and it'll answer the same way that I have answered, because I put in so much content out there already. Yeah. So it's not like my voice has to be rediscovered. It's already there. So, you'll get there. There's a lot to learn from the public space. So if you guys really are keen on learning, there's enough there. Right? There's enough podcasts, not just Bloom. I'm saying outside us as well. So there's books now. VCs have started writing. Entrepreneurs have started writing books. That's how you learn. You're not by just, coming to one session like this and asking me a question. There's a lot to learn out there. So that's what you want to use your spare time on. If you're really keen on building something for the next 30 years, how is this not the right education? So go and learn from people who've done it.
Right, so thank you so much, sir. It has been so enriching. You're absolutely right. 1 hour has really, kind of blown up our minds. So we're so looking forward to maybe having more of you whenever that we can. And so keep doing the awesome work that you do. And thank you so much for inspiring all of us today. Thank you so much, sir.
Hey, thanks everyone. Good luck with the cat, Amit, and the Unacademy team. Loved being there. Of course, I'm a long-time supporter and would love to see you guys keep
Thank you so much, sir. Bye-bye, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir. Bye. Bye-bye.